After BBC2 takes endurance to the limits.
Are the extremes of human endeavour the domain of an elite few? Can an ordinary member of the public be trained mentally and physically to take on one of the world's toughest challenges?
Here goes. Fingers crossed.
In just 8 weeks, Kenny Diar, a 39-year-old footballer from London, will attempt the ultimate running challenge.
Atacama crossing. I don't know what that is, right, but it sounds good.
The Atacama Crossing is a 150-mile ultramarathon over mountains, sand dunes and salt flats in a place where rain never falls. Covering almost a marathon a day for a week, this is the toughest running race in the world.
Got, tingles in my stomach, but I'm looking forward to it and I will complete it. A 150-mile ultra marathon across the driest desert in the world. Here we go.
Well, this one's called the Atacama Crossing. That's the Atacama Desert in Chile. And it's a running race, 240 kilometres. That's knocking on, well, over 5.5 marathons in 7 days. With just 8 weeks until the race, our task is to prepare Kenny mentally and physically. The guys have to carry their kit for the 7 days. That includes food for the 7 days, some safety stuff, quite a weight on their back. It's a staged race, so there's stages that vary between, I think the shortest is around 16 kilometres, just over half a marathon, right up to 2 marathons in a single hit. They're going to run it as a team. There's 2 others in the team who are experienced marathon ultra-distance runners. Right. And our challenger for this event, a guy called Kenny, is a 39-year-old footballer, good footballer. Now, that, I think, raises some interesting questions because he's going to be a sort of all-out, fast-type athlete that's good for sprinting around the pitch for 90 minutes, but this is very, very different. Fascinating, because footballers are, as you say, used to these short, sharp bursts of energy with a finite goal, literally, but also a finite end to the game shortly in front of them, plus a half-time. Kenny's lifestyle as a footballer is one of hard work and training, but also one of enormous fun. He gets through life being cool, he's a ladies' man and he has his own disco and,
This is me. I like to live first and work afterwards. I've never been a 9 till 5 person. I've always been in sports, travel, meeting, socialising, meeting new people, enjoying myself, and just having a good time. For me, this is what life's all about. Life's not about work, and you don't do anything.
He's a cool guy, and that's how we want to be perceived. That's not going to work. You have to let the facade down. You have to show your true self because the challenge is just too tough.
Austin, you just read it. What do you think?
I think you're mad, Kenny.
You think I'm mad? You think I'm mad, do you?
I do, mate.
Doing 20 miles a day, when I think about it, it's like from running from here to Cockfosters, and Cockfosters is just up the road.
I understand he's pretty cocky in terms of his fitness. He sees himself as being a pretty ace athlete, and maybe he is in the context of football. I wonder how he'll cope if he finds that this isn't quite football.
Well, he's in for a shock because he will find that the skills that have equipped him so well for his vocation for so long are of virtually no use where he's going. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when he's taken down a peg or two.
Can you swear?
No.
You're going to be knackered then, mate. You've got to start training, mate.
Don't worry, I've got 2 months of it.
To prescribe a training programme, the third member of our team must first assess Kenny's fitness.
Kenny, right. How are you?
No doubt Greg will be assessing his heart and lungs. I've got a sneaking suspicion that Greg will focus on that and then try and train him up to get better measurements on his sort of cardiorespiratory performance, his VO2 max.
What we're really interested in is how well you can run. In particular, there are a couple of factors that we're interested in. One is the economy at which you run it. Okay, because really, for your challenge, what we're looking to do is improve that economy. The other one is to look at your maximal capacity as well. We're going to kick off at 10 kilometres now, relatively slow. All I need to do is just keep pace with the treadmill, okay? And then we're going to move up to maximum running speed. It is an absolute killer. And he is going to struggle without any shadow of a doubt. What we have is some of the most experienced endurance runners who participate in these events and don't make them. We're attempting to take a football player and turn him into an endurance athlete. It's going to be a very difficult task. It's interesting because on average, a central midfielder will probably run around about 10 kilometres in the game. Yeah. So you're actually running 10K in 90 minutes. It's actually quite, you know, it's a fair rate of running. Yeah. It's a good starting point. I was a little bit concerned. Were you? Because it's a tough challenge. It is a tough challenge. It's a tough challenge for a non-runner, that's for sure. Yeah. I'll tell you that for nothing. In my opinion, I mean, this is the toughest challenge so far. We're taking a football player, we're going to make him into an endurance runner, but not only that, we're going to ask him to run incredible distances in the desert. And there we have heat, we have the effects of sand, particularly on abrasion injuries. It is going to be absolute killer of a challenge, there's no doubt about it.
It's cold at night, hot during the day, and they have to carry water for segments, so they don't carry the water for the entire time, but it's quite a weight on their back. It's across difficult terrain. It starts high in the mountains, around 14,000 feet, so there'll be a bit of an altitude issue at the beginning, and then dropping down through a mixture of sand, desert, lava flows, canyons and salt pans right down to the coast. Daytime temperatures will exceed 40 degrees centigrade, and in this, the driest desert in the world, dehydration is a serious danger. The Atacama crossing is like nothing Kenny has done before in his life. With just 8 weeks until he flies to Chile, Kenny must start Greg's training regime immediately.
It's the worst part. It is, because you can't just go bang straight into it. You've got to have a warm-up, 5, 10, 15-minute warm-up, whatever, and you've got to stretch and just get on with it.
This race could provide a stepping stone, or it could provide a real obstacle for further progress. So he needs to take it seriously.
Well, if you've been doing sport all your life, you know what the pain barriers, and you know what to do, we know what to expect.
Kenny's football training develops what are called fast-twitch muscle fibres. They create the power for sprinting, but require regular rest because they fatigue quickly. Ultra-distance runners have more slow-twitch fibres. There's a huge gulf between a football match and running ultra-distance. It's going to test Kenny in a way he's never, ever met. To build the right kind of muscle, Kenny now needs to work endlessly on the treadmill.
Sometimes running, I've got 45, and I've been an hour, and about 45 minutes is gone. You've got 15 minutes left, and that 15 minutes becomes an hour, and then you look on the clock again, it's 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes becomes 25 minutes, and it's the longest 5 minutes ever.
As his training hours increase, Gary must help Kenny to build the mental strength to run 150 miles in a week.
Why are you doing this?
Because I'm doing it because I want to do it. I mean,
why do you want to do it?
I didn't want. I always want to run a marathon. always want to run. No, I always want to run a marathon. I would have done London next year, or Boston in November or something. You know, and I know I can do it, and I can complete it with the right guidance and the right training. You know, and looking after myself, I know I can complete it.
This kind of endurance race is primarily psychological, and where you break at your weakest point tends to be emotional. Whether you have the emotional capability to deal with a race or not. Your body may be okay, but if your mind is saying, for God's sake, let's go home, that's what it'll give. It may sound obvious, but you need to set your own agenda, have your own strategy, and follow it through. Start creating strategies from when things go wrong. Really think of the things that might go wrong out there and be prepared, and it could be all sorts of things. But you'll find if you have strategies, then when the moment comes, you know exactly how to deal with it. It's the unexpected that will trip you up.
Yeah.
With just 4 weeks until the race, Kenny is about to meet the athletes he will be running with. The Mediterranean island of Cyprus was Kenny's home for 12 years of his early football career. But with its unique mix of sun, sand and salt flats, it's also the ideal location for him and his new team to prepare for the challenge ahead. They have done ultra distances many times in some pretty strange settings. So there's a guy called Richard Donovan who's run marathons in the Arctic and the Antarctic, amongst other places.
We're running on rough terrain, and you're going to have things like sand granules getting into your feet and irritating them.
He's in the super fit class when it comes to real distance, and holds records for running 100 kilometres and 100 miles on treadmills, doing them in ridiculous times by normal people's standards. And he's done a lot of this type of thing, and so he's really the captain of the team and the strategist. The second guy, James, has run many races on sand, which is a different experience.
Some of the events I've done, I've become slightly edemic, and so you end up with sort of puffy feet, and ramming them back in a pair of shoes is very, very painful. He's done a variety of eco-challenges. He's a journalist and travel writer by trade, but he's run ultra distances and is a very solid athlete. The checkpoints will be every 10 kilometres or whatever, and we'll be given a certain amount of water, and I don't know how much that is. The main priority for Richard and James is to assess Kenny's running ability in these more testing conditions. It's been fun to meet him. He's a good lad, and from first impressions. But first impressions don't necessarily count a lot in this game, because it's what he feels like, how interested he is to keep going away into the race. It's like a dream for many people. It's brute physicality. It's just an extraordinary challenge, and it's an opportunity to test yourself in a way that most people never do. Having good teammates to encourage him is going to be very, very helpful, because it's all mental. You know, any help you can get and any support you have will be very welcome. But nevertheless, the reserve has to be in him. Can he access the reserve that's in everybody? It is there. It's there to allow people to survive when things get really tough. We can tell him all that we know from the outside, from our experience, but it's still hard for him to understand or take the benefit of that advice without actually being in the position of having the sore feet, being exhausted.
Well, having met Kenny finally, and you know, we've been over a day together now, we've been running together and that. Obviously, physically, he's a very fit guy. I mean, that's apparent just by looking at him. But I think the good thing on his side is he's a nice guy, and he's kind of got a naturally positive personality. And that will stand him in good stead when he's running in the desert. If he can keep that kind of optimism up, if he has that under very trying conditions, then that's half the battle.
My tan's come along, I've started shining.
That said, it may be that he turns out to have amazing endurance. As I say, we just don't know, and it could be that he ends up dragging the two of us, so we'll see.
This is my sort of running World Cup, and you need an aim, you need people to inspire you, and right now it's James and Richard. They've given me a lot of confidence since we all three of us like been together in this short space of time.
Well, Kenny's venturing into the unknown. My feeling is, as a soccer player, he's going to be extremely competitive, and we've actually got to slow that down, that competitive sense, and make him apply it in a different way. As a soccer player, you're going to go in and you're going to tackle hard and you're going to race hard and compete for the ball. In this kind of race, you've got to show patience, and it's the cleverer guy who'll often do very well, not necessarily the best guy.
200% sure, right, I've got the right two guys to pull me along, or vice versa, me pulling them along, you know, so I'm happy.
Cyprus has given Kenny a small taste of what's to come, but he is starting from scratch. To complete the Atacama crossing, his training must become much more punishing. Back in London, we've stepped up Kenny's training. He should now be spending several hours a day on the treadmill.
Running is boring. I mean, just running is just absolutely boring. It is. When you finish, a 150 miler, that's the end of it. But you know, just running is just a mental thing. It will get harder in the next 2 weeks. I expect to go for another pain barrier, and I'll be ringing Greg again. And now, hopefully, when I'm over that, I should be all ready for the race.
3 weeks from today, Kenny Diar will attempt to run 150 miles through the driest desert in the world. So far, he's not even run a single marathon, and I'm still not happy that he fully understands what confronts him.
What worries me, to be honest, is the fact that when you run real distance, at a point that sort of varies from person to person, you run out of the stores in your muscles and things. You know, it's what's called the wall. And running beyond the wall is very different to running this side of the wall. And half a marathon is well this side of the wall. You feel odd, you know, you feel vague, you feel sick, you feel breathless. Everything is different, and your legs just feel like they belong to someone else. I personally would be advising you to run as far as you possibly can, however slowly. All that matters is teaching your body to cope with that distance.
All right. You're making me feel better now.
I actually want to worry you a bit, because it's not easy.
You're making me feel better now.
However gifted an athlete you are, you know, it will not be easy for you. You're biting off a lot here. There'll be times when you just think, what am I doing here? And you will want to give up. You will want to give up. Well, actually, you will want to give up on day one. I can tell you, you will. You'll think, this is serious. I think he's going to be absolutely gobsmacked by what this demands. He has, in his training, met a couple of longer distances that will have tested him, but it's nothing like the repetitive hour upon hour, day after day that this is going to demand of him. And he's going to find it shocking to his system.
The most shocking element is the race schedule itself. Day 1, a 20-mile run. Day 2, 29 miles. And day 3, 18 miles. Day 4 is a full 26-mile marathon, whilst day 5 is a near double marathon of 50 miles. And day 6, a 10-mile run to the finish. The entire race also takes place at an altitude of at least 1 mile above sea level, but day 1 is run at an elevation equal to half the height of Everest. With 2 weeks to go, Greg puts Kenny in the altitude chamber.
And we're bringing you up to about 3,000 metres, which is only 9,000 feet. Okay, so it's not even touching 14,000 feet, which is what you're going to experience. Really what we look at is as we go up in altitude, the availability of oxygen drops. And that availability of oxygen dropping means that there's less, Kenny's less able to produce energy. And so that's going to have an impact on his performance. So in other words, his speed's going to drop off. But also at the same time, you've got lots of other factors. Things like increased sweat rate, increased dehydration, you have an increased utilization of carbohydrates. What we're talking about here is just a challenge beyond challenges, really. Is that what we're asking Kenny to do is something that is an amazing feat when you're an endurance-based athlete. Kenny's a footballer, and this is going to be one of the toughest challenges he or anybody else has ever liked to face. And it's not going to be pretty.
Completing 20 miles, you know, at a reasonable pace, me and my two colleagues, you know, should be okay. But it's the 50 mile I'm worried about now, and that's on my mind.
Woo. How'd I feel? Temperature only actually 27 degrees. Humidity is fairly high. But you can see, as soon as you go to altitude, you've got the altitude effect. You add on top of that the heating effect, and you've got this double whammy.
In Chile, Kenny will be running a further 6,000 feet higher and 12 degrees centigrade hotter.
Only 6 marathons to go.
For the last week, Kenny has been tapering off his training to allow for complete muscle recuperation. On their way to South America, the team stop over in St. Lucia for 3 days of complete rest and a final kit check before the race.
Backpack.
Backpack, you got a backpack, Kenny?
Obviously. From now on, the focus is entirely and utterly on the race. So although myself and James obviously have experience in running long-distance races, it's a unique situation for us this time in that we're catering for a third person. And for each other, and the three of us have to run as one. Headlight.
They must each carry nearly 30 pounds of compulsory equipment for the entire 150 miles. In the middle of the desert, they may have to rely on it for survival.
You know, he is going to suffer quite quickly in the race. He doesn't know that yet, and for all the explaining we can do, you've got to experience these kind of races to understand that suffering. So he's going to suffer like he never did before.
Gloves, pair of gloves?
Yes. Okay, very good. A water fleece cap.
That obviously is going to, if we can wear something like that all the time, it means that you can keep the sweat out of your eyes, basically. So it'll probably go under the cap.
I think it would be devastating to him on a personal level if he didn't finish this event. And I would have to accept a lot of responsibility for him not doing that. I'm not going to accept the scenario that he won't finish.
With the physical preparations complete, Kenny's last few days are spent preparing himself mentally for the challenge ahead.
It's really began to hit home that, you know, it's just around the corner. You know, it's actually happening, you know, and I've been a bit quiet and been, like, focused a lot more.
Let it be a person or any other image.
As far as I'm concerned, it's just a normal run, but an extremely hard run. And so long as I'm like feel as I am now, I haven't got any worries with my body. It's all working in good order. I'll just go out there and just run one of the best races of my life. Just every day, take it step by step.
Even if we tell Kenny exactly what it's likely to feel like, it's never actually going to mean anything until he is standing there utterly exhausted with his feet covered in blisters and, you know, his rucksack hurting on his back, and the physical side of it becomes faintly disgusting. The whole thing is completely mad, but what a grand madness, what a fantastic, nutty, wonderful, strange, extraordinary idea.
When it's your first race like this, your visualization is always going to be of you actually running all the time, and running quite freely maybe, and things are getting along. Maybe you're feeling a bit tired here or there. The reality is, by the time it comes to the 50-mile stage, you can be shuffling and something resembling a run, and expending huge amounts of energy, at times just to cover 2 miles in an hour. I've seen people dying almost.
You know, one person is either ill or very, very tired or whatever, and it could be any of us, we just don't know. Then we may drag that person. The other two may take the decision to drag them, which would be literally a sling and a bungee, and pulling them along to make them go faster.
The Atacama Desert, Chile, South America. With regions where rain has never fallen, this is the driest desert in the world. After just 8 weeks of training, our distance running novice is about to take on a 150-mile ultramarathon across mountains, sand dunes and salt flats. The place where NASA comes to test its Mars rovers, Luna Valley is the location of base camp for the Atacama Crossing.
This is, I mean, who would have thought? I mean, this time last year I was in INF Cyprus on a beach, and who would have thought a year later I'll be here? This is unbelievable. I mean, look at it. It's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm just looking forward to tomorrow. All the gear's prepared, all the food's prepared, all the supplements, and what we're wearing tomorrow. So we're just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning, so I can get it on the road, so I can start running at least.
Well, it's first thing in the morning and the sun's rising here high in the Atacama Desert. We're on the borders of Chile, Bolivia and Argentina at around 12,500 feet in the Andes. And Kenny's going to arrive shortly into this extraordinary place, this arid mountain environment, this huge desert, and this great big run that he's going to have to do. And although he's been training, he really hasn't come across anything like even the first day, which is going to be 20 miles of hard stuff with a backpack on, over difficult ground. And what he'll make of it, I just don't know. Before they start to run, all the competitors must walk an initial 2.5 miles to get used to the 14,000 feet of altitude.
Our British flag.
Out in Chile, he's going to be in a very hostile environment, one that no amount of coolness is going to compensate for unless he's properly prepared.
It's going to be an interesting one to see if he actually makes it or not.
After 8 weeks of training, the race is on. The route is hilly and the terrain unstable. The scree, scrub and loose rocks are as different as it's possible to be from the smooth, soft football pitch Kenny is used to. The biggest danger on day one is injury. After 6 miles, they reach the first water station, but the correct route is disputed, and our boys have taken a route which is 1.5 miles longer than most other teams.
Lots of yellow flags. Took us all up the mountains. Stupid yellow flags.
What's happened? Everybody took a shortcut. We're supposed to go up over those passes.
Yellow flags.
We followed the flags. Everybody took a shortcut down through there, except people coming out from there.
Over here, that'll get sorted later.
Will it?
ridiculous.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it now. We'll talk to Ian tonight. Yeah, absolutely. We'll live with it. He can make a ruling. 66.
Thank you.
83 is on the
Yeah, here's
Yeah, about it.
Yeah,
This is my challenge to do running. I do want to climb Everest. Going up the mountains.
By ultra-distance standards, the team have started at a blistering pace, but with Kenny's inexperience, descending 4,000 feet at this speed is taking a risk. The injuries, though, are the most likely showstoppers. Twisted ankle in this very difficult terrain could happen, or broken ankle for that matter, twisted knee, twisted hip. And your feet are going to get mashed, really mashed up. People will lose their toenails and it really can become very, very uncomfortable indeed. Well, it's the afternoon of the first day, and here at the initial camp, quite a lot of the teams are in. There was a lot of uphill, as well as the total 4,000 feet of descent, and a lot of very, very broken rock. So everyone's saying this is hard.
I'm tired. Legs are heavy.
3:03:30.
I'm okay. I'm okay. Got through it. Most important thing. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed it.
If you enjoyed it, you're 90% there.
Yeah.
Kenny in particular looked happy, which I was very pleased about. I was worried he'd come in saying, that was dreadful, what am I doing here? But he came in saying, that was tough, I'm glad I'm here. That's great. At the end of day one, our team have covered 20 of the 150 miles and are sitting in a respectable 6th place, just 40 minutes behind the leaders. It's a cold dawn on day 2, and the guys are just all getting up and getting ready to go. Day 2 is the first full-length marathon, descending through river-lined gorges towards the Atacama's great salt flats. Kenny has never run this far before. After a day of running, his fatigued muscles will work better if he can keep them warm. The water in these rivers is down to almost 0 centigrade.
I can't feel my toes. I can't feel my toes. I'm trying to run, but toes off. I'm back in the gear. Oh, I'm freezing up.
You're looking tired.
My hamstring's in bits.
Yeah?
Yeah. That little niggly injury I had, the first time I went in the cold water, sort of got a reaction from it. Like, because I do hate the cold, right? And I know my body, and it just like froze everything. My calves, my hamstrings started, my thighs.
Oh, it's real cold water.
The water was freezing, absolutely freezing. I thought, you know, you wouldn't feel it after a few hundred meters, but you did.
It just sort of froze. I was just like, oh no. So I was more or less walking, you know. So that wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
But it'll be interesting to see if Kenny's knee is something that's causing a problem. Then we'll have to see how that. You know, I mean, a niggling injury is potentially a big problem out here.
We're on the edge of the Great Salt Lake of Atacama. That's where they're going to finish this day 2. Kenny's feeling it, really feeling it. He's saying he's got pulled calves, he didn't like the cold water, his legs are hurting. And overall, I'm not surprised. He's got the fitness, but he's only had a few weeks of trying to put in distance, and the heart and lungs can be fine, the muscles can even be strong, but it takes months and years to build this sort of slow type of fibre in the muscles that can go on and on forever.
I went through a spell where I was feeling better. It just my calf, my hamstring tightened up. Tried jogging, running, won't have it. My leg was heavy as anything. That was sort of running 200 metres, walking, running, walking, running, walking. That's what we've been doing. It's just, no, my hamstring won't have it at all.
It's going to be interesting. He could pack it in. Even after just 2 days, he could say, this isn't for me. At the end of the second day, Kenny needs medical attention. His concerns are for any long-term effects on his football career.
It's nothing serious, but it could be problematic for you under these circumstances. You're getting a little biceps tendinosis here also. I think that's the same thing as this. It's an overuse phenomenon. It's an inflammatory process. Treatment of choice, rest, time, protection, anti-inflammatories, ice, heat, massage, stretch. So let's do lots of stretching tonight.
Kenny's knee is not his only problem.
Is that painful? You know, you could have a small fracture in there, and, you know. Sorry.
That hurt. That hurt.
Well, you don't look happy.
No, I mean, now what I know, what I find out.
I mean, I heard some of what the doc said.
Yeah.
He's not saying it is fractured, he's saying it could be.
It hurts like just touching it. It hurts, it really does hurt. Yeah, it really does hurt. But I didn't know about this until I took my trainers off, you know, in the tent there. You know, and I started like throbbing a bit.
They're going to go all over. You have a big toe, don't you?
As soon as you touched it, just ever so, just on the skin, I felt it.
Was really tender.
Yeah, I felt it.
Well, yeah.
You know, even I ran the skin halfway down on the toenail. You know.
Having run the distance of nearly 2 marathons, the relentlessness of this race may have brought Kenny's challenge to a premature end.
It's the early morning of day 3, and there's 30 kilometres ahead of them, and it's going to be flattish, so that's an advantage, but I'm really very worried about Kenny and his knee and toe. He was not happy last night at all. And the trouble is that these sorts of events are so punishing and painful anyway, that if you've got a let-out, something that can let you get off without losing face, it's really quite difficult to make yourself keep going, rather than saying, well, you know, it's my toe, and dropping out of it. So we're going to find out whether Kenny's determined enough that he really, really wants to do this, because he's got the opportunity now to stop.
Ultimately, it's him who does it, it's not us. It's just all we can do is kind of guide him a little bit, but he's taken it all on by himself, and that's actually what he needed to do. He's now shown that he can take responsibility for himself to do this, and he answered the big question really well yesterday, and actually became stronger towards the end after a period of weakness.
Right, I was worried about you. I thought you might say enough's enough.
I intend to complete it. I had a message on my phone this morning, picture message from my family, all dressed up in running gear.
Brilliant. I'm just thrilled. Excellent. I'm so pleased. You looked like a very unhappy man.
I was.
Last night.
On the morning of day 3, Kenny is starting yet another long-distance run with an inflamed knee and possible toe fracture. Kenny's problems not only show how difficult this race is, but also illustrate the incredible toughness of the runners who are leading the race and are already 4 hours ahead.
Well, we're at the first checkpoint on day 3, and here come the 2 leaders. They're really jogging along at a steady pace, and they've done an enormous distance already. And it's interesting to speculate how these guys do this. Their cumulative time at the end of yesterday was 9 hours 20 minutes, whilst our team was up at sort of 13 hours 20 minutes. And it's because they've been doing this for years, and they've got both the mental and the physical attributes to do this. Their muscles are going to be of the slow type. People come in two forms, really. There's the sort of sprinters that have fast muscle fibres. And then you've got the slow fibres, and you can have guys that have got 90% slow ones, especially if they've spent years building them up. So these guys have got muscles that can just go on and on and on.
On the afternoon of day 3, Kenny and the team finally encounter the horrors of running on desert sand. It's 40 degrees centigrade.
When it's as hot as this and dry like this, you are sweating about a litre every hour, and this is way, way over that time that they're taking to come through. As you dehydrate, your performance drops. So added to the degradation that occurs in performance anyway, day after day on an event like this, you begin to dry out, and for every litre or so that your body loses in total, you get a loss of performance of 5% or so, and that's added to the altitude that's already making them more breathless than they'd be otherwise. Just makes things harder and harder and harder. Knowing how hard Kenny had to push himself to even get going today with the problems he's had, it's just going to be playing there on his mind, and I still am worried about, will he keep going, even though he's shown this gutsy determination. If he's finding it very, very hard, he'll still turn to say, well, I could have done it, but my knee went, or my toe was bad.
It was just, the terrain was just horrible. And the majority of the runners were walking, because you couldn't run unless you're taking a risk. I stopped a few times. I was dizzy. I wasn't feeling too good. And the pain in my knee came back. I wasn't happy at all. I had a lot of pain. Mentally, I was down, you know what I mean, but I was still strong. And I had the treatment yesterday, and I was just well, tomorrow's another day, we'll see what happens, see how I go in the morning. And I started for the morning, and I suffered a bit in the morning. Today I was focusing on so many things. I was thinking about my daughter, I was thinking about my family. When you're actually here running on the terrain and you're seeing what you're seeing, and you're going through everyday emotions, it's just different, believe me. It's no ordinary London Marathon, believe me.
Despite the heat, fatigue and injuries, Kenny is managing to find the mental strength to push on through the pain. After 67 miles of running, day 4 is yet another marathon distance run.
It still hurts. But as you say, no pain, no gain, so...
You'll go a couple blocks and you'll turn right.
Left over a bridge.
Correct.
After the bridge.
I'll help you. Right.
Sandwiches.
Kenny is performing well, so Richard decides to pick up the pace. Keeping up with seasoned ultramarathon runners is no mean feat.
These are elite runners. One of the leading guys has done a 2-hour 20 world-class marathon that took 5 hours to do the marathon on day 2. And now this is day 4, and there's been 30 kilometres in between yesterday. And they are asking so much of their bodies, both physically and mentally. It's an enormous demand. They have to fight a battle with themselves to get through this event, and it really does take a lot of toughness.
After pushing hard for 10 miles, the second-place Chilean team are well in sight. But this speed has come at a price. Halfway through today's marathon, the salt flats have taken them by surprise. It's proved longer, hotter and drier than they expected. With 5 miles until the next water station and in 37-degree heat, they have all run out of water. It's no longer about racing, it's about survival.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, you would have some problems.
There was a bit of a bog out
Can you
there.
tell us how far it is there?
Patches.
8 kilometres.
Kenny, how you feeling? Not too good.
Oh, I got it. Just dump it on the floor.
Richard, where's Kenny feeling the most easy?
It's, bottom line is it was like a march or die out there. I've never seen anything so brutal. There's going to be people pulling out. He's a tough man, there's no doubt about it, our Kenny here. Because that was horrendous, that walk, and it was real French Foreign Legion stuff. It was literally march or die. That's what it felt like. It's bringing back horrible memories of one or two, but this is right up there at the top of them, you know? It's definitely one of the toughest.
Where's your bottle?
I don't feel too good at all. I mean, I ran out of water, ran out of everything over there. And I filled up, this was completely full up, ran out of everything. And I was bad.
I mean, Kenny's obviously taking it hard at the moment, so we'll give him 5 minutes here. And there were places you were sinking in up to your knees if you were unlucky. Weird terrain to be walking on, sort of moonscape.
And how far to now?
Apparently 8 kilometres, and that one's broken as well. About 8, yeah.
I think it's 12, is it?
6 miles.
6 miles, 8 kilometres.
Yeah, I was really pissed off. We used to walk. I became tired, ran out of water completely, ran out of everything. So just when that happens, I just want to go home. You know. Right now, I wish I was at home. I'll run anyway, mate.
This event gives new meaning to the phrase digging deep. Despite injury and dehydration, Kenny manages to push on. Finishing today's stage is a relief, but he is completely spent.
It's a tough one. You've done well. You've done well.
It hurt.
He's probably figuring out different things in his life and stuff. He hasn't told us anything, but I know he's going through that because he's at real lows.
Why don't you give someone your backpack and get yourself a seat?
If it wasn't for Richard and James, through that bit, I would have given up because it was just horrendous.
Kenny is physically in pieces, but tomorrow he must tackle the longest 50-mile stage of the race.
It's the big one, and if they've got anything like what we had earlier, that salt business, I don't know. I already said to Richard and James, I don't know if I could go through that again.
If he can get through tomorrow, and then the following stage, the euphoria he's going to have is something else. And I mean, it's a huge task ahead of him tomorrow, no matter what. And he overcame a monumental one today.
People don't often use the word brave, but I have to say to go through all of that, and he must have been really ragged towards the last checkpoint. Because we touched something quite horrible towards the end here, with the death march. I mean, we had the death march through the salt flat, but then the death march along here as well. And it was, it was hard work.
Well, tomorrow he's going to hit new lows that he, let's say multiply them by 4 or 5 what he's hit today, and he has hit very bad lows. He's seen a glimpse of hell, I think.
Day 5. Ahead of Kenny is the equivalent of 2 marathons through the 40-degree heat of Luna Valley. This is, without doubt, the hardest physical challenge Kenny has faced in his life. And he's starting it in the worst physical condition possible.
We got 50 miles on they say trails, so hopefully it will be. And it's a long way.
Just one step at a time, just get on with it and try and finish.
50 miles of hell. Didn't want to say that in front of Kenny.
So we are not going to pull you unless we think you're going to die. We want you to continue as long as you can stay upright, and you want to.
This fifth day of the Atacama race, coming in at 50 miles, nearly 2 marathons, is pretty unimaginable to a long-distance runner, let alone people who don't go running any real distance. It's going to sap their strength in yet another way. We've been thrilled by how Kenny has done to get himself this far and to be in such good spirits. But he is going to have to reach yet another level.
Kenny is now asking things of his body and mind that few humans ever experience.
How you feeling?
Tired.
Do you know where to go? You're doing a roundabout, okay? When you see the girl, you're being left.
Kenny's got his flicked look, which is he's amazing. He's able to keep going on the lower lips like that. But that's the way the man is, and so good luck to him. And he's doing well. And we're running because his knee gets painful while he's walking, so we're keeping running as long as we can.
Go on. Go on, Kenny. Our boys have caught up with the Chilean Marines, the second-place team, but the effort has aggravated Kenny's knee injury.
Does it go when you run, or is it more when you're walking than when you're running?
I feel it now, but when I'm running, it sort of warms up, and it goes and it comes back.
Right.
That's why when I don't feel it, I start jumping again.
It's just that I can tell you, if we walk this far, the rest of it, it's going to be misery by the time we get there, because we're going to be extremely sore.
No, we jump.
So for the best of reasons, we need to mix it.
Whatever the outcome of the race for Kenny, his achievement is already astonishing. He has covered the equivalent of 4 marathons in just 4 days, in one of the harshest and possibly the most intimidating landscapes in the world. Although in obvious agony, Kenny's determination is something to behold.
This checkpoint halfway through day 5, the ultra-long day, just illustrates how much psychology has got to do with it. This is the same distance as they did yesterday. It's a full marathon to get to this point. And yet the teams are coming in looking completely different. They know that they've got a lot further to go. And so whereas yesterday they were wasted at the end of their marathon distance, now with a different expectation, they're ready to go on, and they'll be wasted at the end.
Although they have walked more and run less today, Kenny's team's strategy for this, the longest day, is working well, and they're holding on to 3rd place. As night falls on the second half of the double marathon, navigating is becoming more difficult. At the final water station, one of the racers has discovered that the midday heat is not the only danger in this landscape.
Well, we're at the penultimate checkpoint on day 5, 46 miles into the course, and it's extraordinary what's happened. The 3rd place runner who came in here, having had real difficulty finding his way in the darkness to this checkpoint, set off and couldn't find his way on. Now, it is dangerous, and it's not only dangerous, you know, he's out of it now.
We're overdue with our boys. They should have been here by now. So should several other teams, and they could be lost in the segment before. And getting lost in this sort of terrain is a real problem. It is very cold. These guys are very tired. And if they stray from the course and then can't find it again and sit down because they become exhausted, they will die. It is hypothermic country. It really is.
I'm relieved as our boys appear through the darkness.
Jumping, that sort of thing.
That was unreal.
Fourth people in, everyone else is lost.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Really good feeling here, but there was a shot.
Oh, you can.
Oh, that was the experience.
In the interests of safety, the race organisers decide to end today's stage 6 miles early at this checkpoint.
I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, it was an extra bonus that you weren't expecting.
On the morning of the final day, Kenny and the team have run an awesome 137 miles in 5 days. At just 10 miles long, this last stage will feel like a short sprint to the finish. With the adrenaline flowing, they run flat out towards the finish of the Atacama crossing. After 7 days and 147 miles, Kenny and his team complete the toughest desert race in the world.
Kenny's come a heck of a long way, and when I first met him, he really didn't seem to have a clue. And with the little training he had and his sort of self-assured ideas that he could do it, I actually thought he would fail. But no, he's come through day after day, marathon distances when he hadn't really run that far before, then 2 marathon distances, and he has shown what's so good about the human spirit, really. He's never allowed himself to say, I can't. He's said, why can't I do it? And he's made it here, and I'm really proud of him.
Kenny, yeah. Congratulations.
I'd say we were 3 fairly easygoing people who were thrown together, and clearly without that we would simply never have met.
Tremendous. You're great.
Sure that it touches madness at moments, and it is completely an unnecessary journey, but it's something that fills a little void in all of us, and it is irrelevant to most people's lives.
It was thinking maybe next week, maybe the week after, but I don't really feel as if I've run so far, you know, so, and it has hurt, it is hurt. I just can't believe that at this present time moment that I've actually done what I've done.
Yes. You simply can't explain to anybody what they will actually go through. And to do it, I think you have to be brave. I hope what we did for him was give him a good race, and for him then to have taken from it, you know, not what you learn about yourself necessarily, but to say, you know, there it was, a challenge, and it's a pretty extreme one, and it's one that, you know, I got through with a little help from my friends.
I finished, I haven't got no pain. There's no pain. You know, it's just like all the pain was, you know, just come and gone.